So this is the replica of the King Arthur's helmet from Monty Python. Happened to be modeled by one of our other foam helmets. And this here is the chainmail. And what chainmail looks like, it looks like just a bunch of like circles that are looped together.
Oh yeah, okay. I was gonna say it was like tiny snakes.
Oh, that works too. It does look like tiny snakes. I didn't think of it that way. And when it comes to the scale mail, so it's like literally looks like dragon scales or fish scales kind of layered. These ones are not rounded, so they're not fish scales, I guess. But here we go. And then we made a little Red Sonja style bra.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's all foam. It's all squishy, super light.
Welcome to the Comics Cube, everyone. Today I'm with Stephanie Chan of FoamArmory. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing okay. It's a weird. I told you off the record. It's a weird thing that it's nighttime for you and it's daytime for me, and both our suns are out.
Right. It's my local time here is 8 p.m. and we still have at least a couple more hours of light.
You are from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Correct.
Right. What about comics? Let's talk about comics. What about comics do you love?
What about comics do I love? I know I was born with comic books in my hand, I believe. Comics was a big thing with my sister and my mom, so it was just like a natural transition. I love visual storytelling. I love the sequential art. I love superheroes and like fantastical worlds, mystery and all that kind of things. It's just another outlet for creative expression.
So let me ask you this, because you said that you were born with comics in your hand. If I asked you if you remember what your first comic book is, would you be able to answer me?
Not a clue. Not a clue. As far as I know, I've always had comics all around me. My sister was a lot older than me, and I think they started buying me my own comics because I kept on getting into my sister's comics.
And she'd get mad at you for wrecking them.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I have an older brother, so it's the same with me. Every time somebody asks me, "What was your first comic?" I'm like, I have no clue.
Oh yeah, same for me. Everyone's like, "You always remember your first comic?" I'm like, no, not when you're born into comics. No.
So, as you were growing up, what did you do to, express your love for comics aside from reading them?
I remember I used to make like a whole ton of like little like my own little drawings and things like that. Yeah. I converted almost my entire Barbie collection into superheroes of some sort. And I would make up my own little superheroes for them. They all had different powers and stuff like that. So I've always kind of like been doing like all these little like hobby things all around comic books even too.
Did you have a favorite comic book as you were growing up?
I think it moved around a lot, to be honest.
Okay.
So I know I really like so DC used to do these digest sized comics.
Yeah.
And I had a whole bunch of them. I don't even remember buying them, to be honest. I don't know if they were already pre-existing in the house or not. But like they had like reprinted lots of really old tales, from Legion of Superheroes to Justice League to Justice Society. Zatanna and Black Canary were the two that really stood out for me. And of course I loved Wonder Woman because everyone loves Wonder Woman, like little girls anyway. So yeah, I
love Wonder Woman.
Definitely girl power type stuff.
Yeah, of the ones you named, Zatanna is my actual favorite.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It's stage magic. It's fun.
It is. It's fantastic. I think Black Canary is probably my favorite if I had to pick one character, but I do very closely like secondary love Zatanna and a few other things, of course.
And how did you get into, all of the things you do for comics? You do coloring, you have a website you run a website about comics. Like how'd you get, what can you name them, and how'd you get into all of those? You're a multitasker.
Early on, I got a part-time job at a comic book shop. Still start there. And then after the comic book shop, or in tandem with the comic book shop, I started doing assisting coloring with several different colorists. Include David Kemp, Dave McCaig. I did or Laurie Cronenberg, Brian Reber. Yeah, quite. So I was on quite a few like titles, like based just off of that. Holly Golightly was another colorist I work with too. And I'm still in contact with most of those people, so it's kind of nice. As for the blog journey is interesting because I was friends with a few other people, like online friends more. And then they had a blog back in the day called The Great Curve. And then they were looking for someone to help with their web administrative stuff. And I started with them. And then that group ended up doing a partnership with Newsarama. So I was actually the person who wrote the blog at Newsarama, the original blog that Newsarama had. And then at some point the group ended up moving over to Comic Book Resources and we became Robot 6. And we have a Harvey, by the way. And then after that, I was a little less involved with Robot 6 eventually. But and then that group broke down. And like throughout all of this times, members kept coming and going, but there was always a certain core that kind of stuck with it. And then we decided, like, you know what, we want to do our own thing now. We don't need to be with these other big companies. It was nice when it was back in the day when it's just like ourselves kind of thing. So that's where Smash Pages kind of come in. And J.K. Parkin has been fantastic as the editor-in-chief and keeping everything together sort of thing. Most of my roles with them is doing the getting the web administrator stuff, because honestly, like, writing is not my strong point. Like, I can write, but it'll take much more time. So if you're doing things that are timely, I'm not the right person for that. However, I will live tweet the Eisners every year, and that's one of our most popular little things that we do.
Yeah.
I have this goal. I have this crazy goal. Like, yeah, I'm going to turn the Eisners. I want it to be treated like the Oscars of comics, kind of thing. So eventually, it totally is. Why are we not in ball gowns and have like the big red carpet and like, oh look, yeah, walking down the lane, here comes, whichever artist, take your pick, and then like in their Versace gown, or totally.
That might speak to the pay rates of creators versus actors. So you say you worked in a comic.
Think it's less to do.
Yeah,
it's less to do with the pay rate and a little more to do with the cultural penetration, because a lot of those outfits at the Oscars are like borrowed. So I don't think that Versace is just going to let me borrow a dress. Kind of thing.
So you say you worked in a comic shop. Well,
yes,
when was
I did
this?
do that. Oh, when was this? 15 years ago or more.
Okay. I got a question.
Right out of high school, basically.
I got a question for you, because I live in the Philippines, and in the Philippines, people in comic shops who go to comic shops, customers in comic shops, they're pretty well behaved. They're pretty good. But I did live in the States for a bit. And when I walked into a comic shop, specifically when I walked into a comic shop with my then girlfriend, the guys working there were not, they'd go silent. They'd all stare. Some guy would be like, hey, like, to break the silence, one of the guys behind the counter would be like, hey, do you think the Hulk's dong is green just like the rest of them? Like, what is a Canadian comic shop like, I guess, is my question.
Well, so when I worked in comic shops, it was in Edmonton, Alberta, which is 3 hours north of Calgary. So they have even more daylight than Calgary.
Wow.
And the comic shops were very diverse. Like Edmonton is a very heavy comic city, and like per capita, I don't know if they still hold it, but per capita for the longest time they were like the number one place to buy Archie in the world, for example. Yeah, so the comic penetration is really good, and the diversity was very good. It was easily like most comic shops that I went to, at least anyway, it seemed like pretty 50-50 with a male-female ratio kind of thing. And it was also open to LGBTQs, and there was like tons of like lots of indie comics were really well supported, lots of local comics were very well supported. So I think I can't say if that's like all of Canada, because I haven't really been to a lot of comic shops across the country, but I can definitely say it's not your stereotypical comic situation that you see on The Simpsons.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. So coloring, I in the year I've been doing this, this show, I've realized as I make lists of people I would like to interview, I realized that when it comes to coloring, that probably has the highest proportion historically of women
Hmm.
than any other part of the creative process, and I've been wondering why that is. What do you think there's any particular reason for that, or?
Um, so very early on, this is like we were talking like early days, like 50s and 60s here. A lot of the coloring type stuff was done by the same ladies that were running the offices. A lot of the processes was done there.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the best known like classic colorists was Marie Severin.
Yeah.
And I don't know why women took up the coloring much more than men. Like I know in general women don't have say color blindness, but that shouldn't make a difference to be on like in general. So that's a really good question, what it is about coloring that really draws women in. But it seems to be a job that a lot of women just like doing. I think nowadays though we're seeing more women illustrators get into the forefront. It wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me if that might have something to do with also just like the way society is in a patriarchal system where women are discouraged to become creative leaders.
Yeah.
That might play a part in it. We all know the backstories of a lot of like not nice things that happen to women creators at a lot of the mainstream offices in the past. So that might also be a part of it. There's a Facebook group I'm in with a lot of women comic fans and there are also a lot of women creators in there, and a lot of I would say it's just a shocking number of women in there were discouraged to continue working in the comic industry for various reasons.
Really?
With quite often the harassment or lack of advancement or not taken seriously. And even for myself, it was a bit of a struggle too. Let's see. So in San Diego, here's a good example. San Diego, I'm going around there with my portfolio, trying to make networking and making connections. And I was talking to this one person from an animation studio, and he seemed super interested in my work. And I don't know if have you done any big conventions or anything like that?
I went to New York once in 07.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you probably are aware that a lot of us, in order to save money, will pile in as many people as possible into that hotel room. Yeah. So I think I had 8 roommates that year. Anyway, so one of my roommates, he saw me talking to whoever, right? And then he came over and said hi. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is my buddy. And then the guy immediately like up and turned tail, because before that he was inviting me to Texas to check out the studio and everything like that, right? So there's obviously assumptions, ulterior motives, the whole works, and that's an age-old story. And I think and a lot of stories like that will discourage women, and also a lot of times it's just we're not even taken seriously.
That really sucks.
Oh yeah, it totally does, and it wastes my time. And I go through phases on a regular basis of being bitter about the comic book industry because of it.
I understand. I was talking to somebody about this, and I was like, if you take a look at things like the Beatles or, other rock bands or anything,
Mm-hmm.
The ones that get really big are the ones with a huge female fandom.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they get really big, we get back in. We're like, oh, we were fans of that before you were. Get out of here. And I'm like, why do we do this? It's so
I don't know. So my one friend, Jay Bardella, he used to own a comic shop in Edmonton. He would always say, I don't understand the rejection of women who are into comic books, because hello, hot chick, into things that I'm into, willing to dress up like the things I like. Where's the negative? I don't understand.
Yeah, I think around 10 years ago there were some people going like, I'm so sick of the women coming into comic conventions. I want to create a convention where it's just guys like the old days. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I would never go into that. I would
Mhm.
never go in there. For one thing, it would smell really bad. Um
I
anyway,
did.
yeah.
I was at San Diego one of the years that Twilight became super huge,
Yeah.
and like there were so many young girls there and young women, and I remember so many bitter men who are just like they don't belong here and all this kind of stuff, blah, and it's just kind of like, oh,
What's
well,
wrong with you people?
I don't know, like why can't they come in like there's things I don't know.
So one of the things that you have on Smash Pages that you're going to color, or I don't know if you've colored it at this point, but it's a piece by Travis Mercer for
That,
FoamArmory.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's partially colored right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have that packaging ready to go. But what that piece is, it's actually the cover. It'll be the cover for my scale mail armor,
Mm-hmm.
and he designed this fantastic dragoon warrior. Like I'm just so happy with it. Obviously in scale mail armor, and Travis is yeah, he's done some work for DC and Dynamite, and he's just like a dream to work with. Like it was just basically like, here's kind of what I'm looking for, and then bam, he turns around and gives me this fantastic piece, which is like more than what I expected. So like I'm super happy working with him on stuff. I kind of want to do many more things with him. I'm gonna get him do my chainmail packaging as well now. So it's really exciting, and it's kind of nice to like be able to bring together my comic book and my comic book coloring into my cosplay business.
Yeah. So let's talk about your cosplay business. How'd that come about? FoamArmory.
Oh, that's funny. So the way it worked out actually was so in Calgary there's a place called Fuse 33 Makerspace, and what a makerspace is a place what has like many different types of equipment that you can basically pay a monthly fee to be able to use those equipment, because you might not have that equipment at home. So if you think of it like a gym membership, where you go to the gym and you can use all their equipment, in a makerspace you can use all their equipment, but in this case the equipment is like wood shop tools like planer, um, like CNC routers. There's a metal shop here with welding equipment and things like that. There's also laser cutters and 3D printers, and a sewing lab in this particular one. Like each makerspace might have different things, but in general it's like, so that way a lot of people, usually somewhat creative-ish, can like come in. People are often like hobbyists or sort of like semi-pro, or and they just don't have the facility to do these things at home. So like for example, when I first came in, I made a cutting board here, and that's how I learned how to use the wood shop. And people like will often start businesses here, so that's what a makerspace is. So just the reason I'm warming you up to that is so the owner of the makerspace, or one of the owners anyway, his name is Shannon. He knew my interest in comics and like doing the convention circuits and everything like that. Decided that you'll probably get along with my friend Ben. So then he's arranged it so that way I would meet. His name is Ben Eadie. So me and Ben, of course, we have our very own similar interests, and we decided that we can actually do a lot of things together. And so that kind of fast forward a little bit. So Ben actually hatched the idea of he saw some knitting, and then it inspired him to make a foam version of the knitting that looks like chainmail, basically, is how that came about. So he was the one who engineered it. His background is an aeronautical engineer. So he engineered a way to cut foam into a knittable foam still, that it just weaves into each other, and it simulates chainmail. So we did a bunch of prototyping on the laser cutter, and it was super cool. And then Ben was like, "Oh, I'll just put this on up online, and then we're good to go, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, hold your horses, Ben. I know." And like Ben loves sharing knowledge. He's a very like generous fellow and everything like that. But I'm like, we could probably turn this into something more, right?
Mhm.
So we started developing it more, and he ended up getting a job on Ghostbusters Afterlife. That's the third Ghostbusters movie as a props master, or at least a prop maker. I don't know if he was a prop master. Sorry,
That's the one
but
that's
he got
coming
into
out, right?
Ghostbusters. Yes, that's one's
Okay.
coming out this fall. And
Okay.
so they actually filmed that. A good chunk of that was actually filmed in and around Calgary.
Okay.
So he got a gig on that movie set. And for part of the movie, they actually flew him down to California. And in California, he ended up meeting one of the prop guys in the States side, which was Adam Savage from Mythbusters. And that's kind of where it all kind of came together. And then Adam Savage, Ben showed Adam his the little chainmail invention. Adam thought it was mind-blowingly amazing, and then put Ben on his show while he was still in the States and introduced the world to foam chainmail. And literally that episode ran, and Ben was back in Calgary by the time that episode ran. We met for breakfast that morning and basically said, I guess we better make a website. And we threw together over breakfast a little website to take pre-orders for the chainmail, and 300 orders that weekend. Right
Wow.
after that, yeah, it was like we're like literally, it was the just the man forced us into business.
Like I don't cosplay or anything, but when I was looking at, what you guys do, I'm like, this seems like a thing that should have always been around. And
Yeah, so
yeah. You think that's what
yeah,
it was?
yeah,
People go in and be like, "Oh my God, where has this been all my life?"
yeah, a lot of people were like that. So in the old days, so I've mentioned that people were knitting chainmail to simulate that effect. And then the other thing that people were doing was cutting ABS pipe, like plumbing pipe.
Mm.
Basically, they'd slice it like bread, and then, well, obviously it's like a cut down the middle too, and then they have to like hand weave each loop together to make the chainmail, sort of thing. Like these are like costume tricks to get around like making real chainmail. Not to replace real chainmail, because honestly it's beautiful, and I really want some real chainmail one day, kind of thing. But I mean, if you're doing volume, if you're doing something you want that's more lightweight, or something that's a little more economical, like you probably don't want metal chainmail. So
Something that'll go through the airport.
that's my favorite catchphrase, to be honest. It's airport friendly. So a movie like Lord of the Rings, the first one, that's what they did. They actually took ABS pipe and sliced it and had people just sit there and hand weave chainmail all day long. Yeah, so this is and this is a much faster process, and it's just like zoop zoop zoop, and then like you have a helmet in an hour.
For the fashion and cosplay impaired like me, what is the difference between scale mail and chain mail?
Oh, okay. If you don't mind me stepping inside here, I'll show you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, totally. So let's just grab. Yeah. So this is sorry. So this is the replica of the King Arthur's helmet from Monty Python.
Yeah.
Happened to be modeled by one of our other foam helmets. And this here is the chainmail. And what chainmail looks like, it looks like just a bunch of like circles that are looped together.
Oh yeah, okay. I was gonna say it was like tiny snakes.
Oh, that works too. It does look like tiny snakes. I didn't think of it that way. And when it comes to the scale mail, so it's like literally looks like dragon scales or fish scales kind of layered. These ones are not rounded, so they're not fish scales, I guess. But here we go. And then we made a little like Red Sonja style bra.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's all foam. It's all squishy, super light.
It weighs nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what kind of one of the fun comments that we've had from one of our customers checking it out was, she said, wow, like her son made a full on chain walk around a con, and a couple hours in, he couldn't deal anymore. It was so heavy and so hot that he was just like, he was like passing out, and he had to like take off parts of it and things like that. So that's the advantage. Like foam still keeps heat in, but it is much lighter.
Yeah.
And you could probably wear it all day, and it does breathe at least like too. Like there's because you saw the holes, right?
Yeah.
So like even though the metal chainmail will breathe, you're also like you have to consider you're also basically doing a continuous weightlifting.
Yeah, it's one of those things whenever I saw Red Sonja before, I'm like, there's no way that's comfortable. She must have super strength.
Well, she has such little on. I think she can deal.
How come Conan gets to run around with like fur?
The fur loincloth. That's right.
The fur loincloth. But
That's
so
totally true.
what is the what does cosplay do for you? What do you like? Does it help you with?
So
Yeah. Okay.
so my well, I'm gonna start at the beginning because like so I've always liked the whole thing of wearing what you want, dressing up, fashion doesn't matter, sort of thing. Like people always say I'm like really super fashionable, but my secret is I just ignore fashion. I just wear what I like. My background actually is I'm a fashion photographer.
Mm-hmm.
I did a few runway shows for Western Canada Fashion Week, and like you know I always enjoy doing things like Halloween and stuff like that, like growing up or whatever. But the cosplay is kind of interesting because I whenever the cons come around, because like the coloring job, I don't want to really feel like cosplaying because I'm kind of in a different mode. I'm prepping my portfolio and I'm not really there to cosplay. And then even with the local shows, I often cannot cosplay because I have dress code for people who host the panels, and I usually do a lot of panel hosting at the
Okay.
shows too. So it's there's kind of a little bit of a like the I don't know like irony kind of involved that like I'm really into cosplay, but I don't really get the chance to cosplay at conventions. So, but
That is
to
ironic.
answer your question, yeah, it is right. But to answer your question, what it does for me, I love the creative, expressive nature of it all, kind of thing. And a lot of things that I would wear normally, I guess you could say, is might be considered cosplay for other people, sort of thing. And people
Mm-hmm.
are always like, "Oh, you're always all dressed up," or "You're always like that costume's wild," or like, "Oh, it's not a costume; it's just a dress I have," that kind of thing. So for me, it's just another creative outlet to express yourself, really, just
Yeah.
like fashion.
I've never actually considered it before, but like, I mean, recently I've spoken to a few cosplayers who were said that it's helped them find confidence and
Mm-hmm.
self-confidence, and I think that's really a positive message for it. Yeah.
Oh, I told that's what I like about the cosplay community. I think it's actually saved a lot of people.
Really?
Legitimately like not joke that about how cosplay what cosplay does for your confidence and
Mhm.
your emotional well-being and your creative expression. And like a lot of people are very shy in the world, but then when they get a chance to put on their so-called costume, that's when they actually can feel like they can be themselves. um and I just find that so cool. I'm like super myself personally. I'm like super extroverted and probably overconfident and everything. So I'm to the point of foolishness, but but so I'm probably not the best person to ask about that aspect of cosplay. But I know that that's a major part of cosplay, and I just think that's the coolest thing. And
Yeah.
but my background also as just in general as like a kind of an activist and things like that, I like to empower people
Mm-hmm.
that need empowering. And that's what I really love about cosplay is like for me to be able to just make some components to make it a little easier to cosplay and be able to empower people to find that creative outlet. That to me is like reward.
How, speaking of goals, how did you feel when you put out this the scale mail armor Kickstarter and you made almost 10 times as much as your goal?
That was really mind-blowing and kind of surreal, to be honest. Like I knew that it would do well. I wasn't expecting it to do phenomenally well. So that there's like basically it almost feels like there's a whole other world of cosplay that I need to reach out to, because like the Kickstarter just changed everything. And like today I spent the last 8 hours making chainmail and scale mail for the Kickstarter, actually. And then on top of it, we're still getting regular web sales too, just up for the chainmail on our website. So, and I'm not even actively advertising right now because I'm spending all my time making the armor.
And I guess my last question is, what is next? Like, how has this opened things up for you? What are you going to do next?
Creator items with a couple of new ideas, as well as we're going to North America, and there's a few cons in Canada and United States that has expressed interest in having us there.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
And that'd be super cool because that would be the first time I'll get to meet my customers face to face, because we actually started our business right when the pandemic began.
During the pandemic. You'll get to see your customers wearing your stuff.
For finally, yeah. That'll be amazing.
That'll be awesome. So good luck. Congratulations. Thank you
so
for
much.
doing the interview. I'm very happy.
Yeah,
very
well,
happy
thank you for
you.
having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you.